General Hospital today will reveal. In the latest unfolding drama on General Hospital, the seemingly solid relationship between Michael Corinthos and Jacinda Bracken has begun to fracture under the weight of secrets, manipulation, and past transgressions resurfacing at the worst possible moment. The February 2nd episode delivered a seismic shift in the emotional terrain of Port Charles, as Willow Kane made a calculated and controversial move that may permanently damage not only Michael's romantic life, but also the last remains of their own moral compass. During a tense encounter in Alexis Davis' office, Willow arrived carrying a file, a thick, damning dossier filled with the shadowy past of Jacinda Bracken. Although Jacinda had long tried to escape the mistakes of her past life before settling in Port Charles, Willow saw those unresolved transgressions not as a reason for empathy, but as a weapon. She suggested without hesitation that Alexis should be the document as leverage in court, particularly to question the suitability of Michael's relationship with Jacinda. Her argument was strategic and clinical. No judge, she insisted, would look favorably upon a man entangled with a woman whose history included escort work and a criminal record. This wasn't merely a personal vendetta, it was a tactical move, cold and sharp-edged, designed to protect her own position while subtly undermining Michael's. What had once been a deeply intimate and emotionally intricate dynamic between Willow and Michael had now calcified into power plays and veiled threats. Their love story, previously anchored in shared grief and survival, now teetered on the brink of collapse as Willow attempted to regain over the fractured pieces of her life. By targeting Jacinda, Willow wasn't just seeking revenge or power. She was desperately trying to rewrite her own narrative as the wronged party, even if it meant compromising every ethical line she once swore never to cross. But in a surprising twist, Alexis refused to follow Willow's lead. After initially caving to Willow's emotional blackmail and agreeing to resume her role as Willow's legal counsel, Alexis drew a firm line in the sand when it came to the Jacinda file. The seasoned attorney, worn but wise, understood the consequences of weaponizing someone's past, especially when that someone had worked hard to reinvent herself and found a semblance of stability in Michael. Alexis's refusal to use the file was not just a legal decision, it was a moral one, rooted in experience and an unspoken recognition that the pursuit of justice must never be contaminated by vengeance, masked as righteousness. This left Willow in a vulnerable position. Her bold maneuver, once full of the kind of quiet menace that comes from someone who believes they hold all the cards, was suddenly defanged. Her secret weapon was rendered useless, and her motivations were now exposed in the harsh light of day, not just to Alexis, but potentially to Michael as well. And with that exposure came consequences. The very man she had once shared everything with might now see her for what she had become, someone so consumed by control, fear, and anger that she would destroy another woman's life just to prove a point. Michael, for his part, may be left in a state of emotional chaos. Discovering that Willow, the mother of his child, his former partner in grief, and a woman he once saw as a moral anchor, had gone behind his back to compile evidence against his current girlfriend is likely to send him into a tailspin. This betrayal doesn't just damage trust, it destabilizes Michael's entire sense of judgment. If Willow is capable of digging through Jacinda's past and attempting to manipulate legal outcomes to suit her agenda, what else might she be capable of? Even if Alexis keeps the file from surfacing in court, the knowledge of its existence and Willow's willingness to use it could be enough to cause irreversible damage. Jacinda, already battling her past and working to build a new future with Michael, might feel violated and humiliated, not just by Willow's actions, but also by Michael's potential silence or hesitation in defending her. It raises the unsettling possibility that even if Michael didn't condone Willow's actions, he may have been too passive, too uncertain, too tied to the remnants of his old life to shield Jacinda fully from Willow's wrath. And so, what began as a quiet, tense visit to the lawyer's office now threatens to erupt into a full-blown personal and legal disaster. Michael may soon be forced to choose between his loyalty to Jacinda and his lingering entanglement with Willow, a choice that could cost him both women if handled poorly. Meanwhile, Willow must confront the fact that in her pursuit of control and self-preservation, she may have sacrificed the last threads of compassion that once defined her. The courtroom battle may never come, but the emotional reckoning is already underway. As the dust begins to settle, it's clear that this moment will leave lasting scars. Trust has been shattered, alliances have shifted, and characters once thought noble are now cloaked in moral ambiguity. General Hospital thrives on these fault lines, on the blurred space between justice and vengeance, love and obsession, survival and betrayal. In trying to destroy Jacinda, Willow may have only succeeded in unraveling herself. The question now is whether anyone involved will be able to pick up the pieces or if the damage is already too deep. While Alexis may have refused to use the file containing Jacinda's criminal past, it would be short-sighted to believe General Hospital would introduce such a provocative piece of evidence only to let it fade into obscurity. The existence of that file alone creates a loaded narrative device, one charged with the potential to unravel. Relationships stir legal conflict and upend custody arrangements. Alexis's refusal doesn't eliminate the threat. It only shifts the power to someone far more willing to wield it. That someone is Willow, whose recent actions suggest she has not only the motive but also the will to act. Regardless of the legal or emotional fallout, Willow has been edging closer and closer to confrontation, stoking tensions with Jacinda in subtle and overt ways. Her provocations have escalated, her demeanor sharpened with each encounter. And the presence of that file now looms like a loaded weapon in a room full of emotional dynamite. It's only a matter of time before she detonates it. As the pressure intensifies, Willow is likely to take matters into her own hands. Discarding Alexis's objections and using the document however she sees fit, her desperation has begun to override her restraint. She is no longer playing a game of quiet influence. She is preparing for a decisive strike. Although it may seem at first that Michael is approaching Willow to mend their fractured co-parenting bond, that hope for reconciliation is a fragile illusion. Any meeting between them is destined to be fraught with tension, especially if Willow uses the opportunity to deliver an ultimatum. With unwavering clarity, Willow could demand that Jacinda be removed from Michael's life entirely. In her mind, Jacinda's presence around Wiley and Amelia represents instability, risk, and contamination of the life she's trying to rebuild. And so she may draw a line in the sand. If Michael wants access to their children, he must cut Jacinda out for good. There would be no room for compromise under Willow's terms. She may present her demands not as emotional manipulation but as a practical necessity, asserting that any future agreement between them hinges on Jacinda's total absence. Her logic, no matter how biased, there will be airtight in its delivery. No woman with a record like Jacinda should be near their children. If Michael refuses, Willow has a backup plan. She may threaten to take the matter to court, invoking the file as her trump card. In doing so, she transforms a personal dispute into a legal war, fueled by a renewed sense of power after her own exoneration in the Drew Kane shooting investigation. Willow now feels emboldened to make moves that would have terrified her just weeks ago. Her own name has been cleared and suspicion has begun to cloud Michael's. In her eyes, this is not just about protecting Wiley and Amelia. It's about reclaiming agency in a world that once spun out of her control. And Alexis, once a neutral party, may now find herself coerced into aligning with Willow, cornered by loyalty, guilt, or legal leverage. If the file is introduced in a courtroom, Jacinda's past becomes public knowledge, and Michael's custody arrangement could be severely compromised. What once felt like a stable relationship between Michael and Jacinda is now on the verge of collapse. The question becomes whether Michael will act preemptively to protect his parental rights or if he will stand by Jacinda in defiance of Willow's pressure. If he chooses the latter, he risks everything: court intervention, public scrutiny, and a potential loss of custody. If he chooses the former, he confirms Willow's influence and effectively ends his relationship with a woman he deeply cares about. For Jacinda, the emotional cost is just as high. She has worked tirelessly to distance herself from a troubled past, building a new life in Port Charles. But no amount of redemption can withstand the force of a scandal revived and broadcast in a custody hearing. Jacinda may begin to question whether staying with Michael is worth the damage it could inflict not just on herself, but on the children at the center of this storm. If she senses that her continued presence could jeopardize Michael's chance at shared custody, she might remove herself from the equation voluntarily, an act of self-sacrifice wrapped in quiet heartbreak. This path would leave no one unscathed. Willow may win the legal battle but lose whatever moral credibility she once had. Michael could secure his children, but at the cost of emotional fulfillment. Jacinda might vanish from the narrative, branded not by who she is now but by who she once was. And the children Wiley and Amelia will grow up in the shadow of decisions made not for their joy, but for their control. As the legal and emotional threads tighten, General Hospital edges toward a dramatic crescendo where past sins, future fears, and present battles converge. The question isn't whether the file will be used, it's who will suffer most when it is. The next move belongs to Willow, and if her current trajectory is any indication, it will be ruthless.